How's it going, everyone? It's Blake here from ChessPathways.com, doing some more Blitz battles today, so let's see how this goes. Still waiting for White to make their first move. They play e4. Let's stick with the usual today. Let's play the Caro-Kann and see how it goes. d4, d5. Okay. Do they want a Panov? Yes, they do. Knight f6. Okay, and here e6, g6, and knight c6 are all moves. I kind of like the knight c6 line, so let's play it. Keep the bishop open. You cannot play bishop f5 there, by the way, because you get hit with queen b3. I learned that lesson the hard way. Okay, bishop g4. You can play this now. Now they can take and play queen b3. That leads to a sharp line, but black is fine there. Okay, they don't, so now they kind of let me get the bishop out of the pawn chain for free, which I'm happy about. And often these pawns will get exchanged eventually, and white is left with this isolated queen's pawn, which kind of defines the whole strategy of the Panov variation. Okay, so I could play bishop e7. If I do, though, we're getting to the point where I have to start thinking, what if white pushes c5 and gets this advanced Panov structure with the 3-on-2? So I think taking on c4, this is probably a good moment for it. Just make sure that white gets saddled with the IQP. And I'll probably just play bishop e7. Or maybe even knight b4 here. This is often... Well, I guess I can't because I'm not castled. There's bishop b5 check and stuff to worry about. Often you want to play knight b4 eventually to really blockade this d5 square. White often even plays a3 to stop you. But I don't think I can do that without castling first because, I mean, I need this knight to stop a lot of these checks. So let's play bishop e7. Only concern is, can you play d5 and liquidate? But you can't yet. So let's get castled. And now I think you might want to play a3, because otherwise I just play knight b4, knight d5, and your IQP is really blockaded, I believe. I don't think trying to win this pawn directly is the right play here. White can defend it adequately. I think I just really want to blockade this d5 square. So let's play knight b4. Just play knight d5 and have this super firm blockade of the d5 square. And exchanges of minor pieces are going to favor me here, because the closer we get to a major piece endgame, the closer we get to me just tripling on the d-file and really getting after this pawn. So okay, you can play g4 if you want to, but I'm not really too concerned about that. Okay, I'm happy to swap a set of minor pieces like I just talked about. It's fine with me. Let's go ahead and blockade. Possibly rook c8 next. Okay, I don't see any reason to complain about that. Let's go ahead and force this bishop to make a decision. I always want more info about these bishops' intentions. Okay, that's fine. Let's play rook c8. Rook c1, maybe? Always trying to, consider the opponent's candidate moves. I know in some cases you even take on c3, even though it unisolates the pawn. Okay, they're not going to go for that. I'll offer to exchange another set of minor pieces. Also, I have really nice control here of the c-file. This is kind of a dream scenario when you're playing against the IQP. Now, if I can just trade these knights somehow. But of course, you can't play for trades directly, right? Like, starting to do weird maneuvers hoping to exchange this knight would be dumb. You don't want to do that. It's good to kind of keep that in your back pocket, but you can't just play artificially like that. I have to improve all my pieces. I still have this rook that has to get into the game. So let's start trying to contest this c-file. If you take, then I take and you can't contest. That's the point. So I think I just double on this open file. And my knight's really good. And I don't see any real possibility for a kingside attack. So let's play rook c8, get control of the file, maybe queen c2 next. So far, no flashy tactics, not much of anything, just slowly, exploiting the downsides of the IQP. So, okay, queen c2, what's going on? I'm not actually threatening anything when I play queen c2, except to maybe play, like, queen e4 followed by rook c2. That could be promising. You can't take, though. You can't trade queens, right? Because then b2 is too weak, I think. And if you play rook b1, well, then I probably just start coming after your IQP. Do I have anything better? Does it make sense to expand on the queen side at all? Probably not. Those pawns just look like they'd be weaknesses. They're not doing anything. f6 is likewise too weakening, so I think just queen c2 makes sense. You can't really take me, like I said. And it kind of ties you up a bit. Okay, fine. Well, I guess rook c4 might as well make a threat. Do I need to stop knight c5? I guess I should. I don't see a reason not to stop it. Let's play b6. Still doing okay on time. Have almost a minute left, and we're in this kind of pseudo end game already. All my pieces are good. There's no, tactical blow that's imminent, but that's okay. Just got to slowly maneuver and, make it happen. So what could white do here? If they trade queens, okay, a3 makes sense. Although now I get the b3 square. I could play, I guess I could play queen b3 followed by rook c2 in some cases. Let's actually play rook c4 first, just threatening d4. I'm threatening queen takes d2 followed by rook takes d4. Trying to force white's hand a little bit. Okay, makes sense. I guess I'll just retreat. That's fine. No real rush here as far as I can see. Okay, white would certainly be happy with a repetition, but I don't intend to give it to them. Let's actually start expanding a little bit. I just want to take away some squares here on the queen side. Not sure if it's best, but, it's an idea. I don't think, super precise play is really necessary here. I could even take and play f6, although I'm not sure if I really want to. But yeah, let's do it, because I can play king f7 and then rook c4 and stuff like that. That's the idea. And if you ever, expand on the queen side yourself, I get access to c3. Okay, so let's play rook c4. You don't have knight e5 anymore. You don't have knight b4. You don't have knight c5. Okay, drove you back. And let's start expanding on the king side. You got to kind of make stuff happen after you, get your pieces in the best squares. I have the weakness to go after, but, the game's not going to win itself. I have to, principle of two weaknesses and, make something happen on the king side or queen side too. Meanwhile, you're pretty tied up, so I'm happy about that. Okay. Gotta be careful, though. It's never too easy to play for, f5, because you have knight e5, but I could always try to, maneuver around, maybe even target g2, maybe even come around and target g2. Let's keep expanding on the queen side. One idea is to put a pawn on b3, followed by rook c2. Let's actually go for that. b4... If you play b3 yourself, I think the pawn's weaker there. I can target it. Otherwise, I just want to play b3, rook c2, and pick up your pawn. Okay, b3. Oh, but maybe now you play... Yeah, I maybe should have done some more prophylaxis against that idea, huh? Did that ruin everything? That might have ruined everything. Unless I just play g4 now, and d4 is still kind of a problem. Yeah, I don't think I should have allowed this, looking at it now. Although, okay, this still works out. I'm going to win your b2 pawn, right? Okay. This is still okay. And probably still even better. The king's surprisingly safe on f5. That's nice. We got 17 seconds, so I probably got to speed up a little bit. This was not good technique by any means, but it might get the job done. d4 is still a target. Okay. Okay, let's attack the rook. Okay. I'll offer to swap knights. In fact, I'm forcing you to swap knights. And I'm just banking on this pawn falling. Although, g4 falls too. Okay, it's probably just a draw. Okay, not a horrible result with black. I was kind of pressing the whole game. Technique wasn't perfect. Well, I can still try to salvage this. Kind of see what happens. I guess I'd still rather be black by a slim margin. But I don't see any player winning this game. Okay. The idea was good. Put the pawn on b3 and play rook c2. The execution just wasn't there. This is what they mean when they say tactics are the servant of strategy, right? You can have the best ideas, and it's good to come up with the ideas, but then you do have to calculate move by move. Not always possible in blitz. Got to rely more on instincts. Here, didn't work out. But at least I salvaged a draw. I don't think there's any way I can lose this. We're probably just going to shuffle around. There's probably not much more to learn. I'll just go ahead and offer him one, but I don't know if he'll accept. I guess we're stuck shuffling around here for a little bit. Maybe he hopes he can win on time, but there's a 2-second increment, so that's not going to happen. Not in a position as simple as this one. Okay. Okay, I guess I'll give checks now. Check. Check. Okay, don't tempt me. Don't put your king on the back rank. I want to make something happen now. Maybe you blunder with king g2. Okay. I might have actually hung my f pawn there at some moment, but you know, it's probably even still a draw if I do that. Play king g2. Okay. I don't know why he doesn't want to, you know, offer the draw. Could get a 50 move rule if there's no repetition. It's got to be repetition, right? There we go. All right, yeah, let's hop over to the analysis board and take a look. All right, so the opening, there's actually some good theory to know in this particular line in the Caro-Kann. So we'll do self-analysis. E4, C6, D4, D5, we get a Panov, C4, right? Knight of 6, knight C3. And like I said, E6, G6, and knight C6 are all the main moves. Often in the Caro-Kann, you want to get this bishop out of the pawn chain, but you can't play bishop F5 right now because queen B3 is a simple double attack. I lost a game against Advait Patel, who I believe now is an international master or grandmaster, way back in like 2011, I think. One of my first Caro-Kann games ever in a tournament. When I fell for this. So don't do that. Knight c6, knight f3, and now you can play bishop g4. If white tries to make this idea work now with queen b3, there is a very sharp line here with takes, takes, queen b3, takes, takes, and you can't defend both d5 and b7 is the point. But okay, you can play e6, queen takes b7, knight takes d4. The line gets pretty sharp. Now you have a bunch of threats, so white has to kind of force you to trade off the knight. Takes, white has this in-between move queen c6 because you can't block because the rook falls. So it's like king e7 and white takes their piece back and it's, you know, pretty sharp, but black's doing fine. But instead, white didn't go for that. White just played bishop e2, which I'm usually happy to see because now I just play e6, stabilize this pawn, avoid queen b3, and I just want to play against the isolated d-pawn. So bishop e3, and I chose to take because again, if you don't take for long enough, white might eventually be able to play c5 and kind of transform the pawn structure and make it an advanced Panov, which I actually covered a couple videos ago in an Alekhine defense game. That just goes to show you how knowing your pawn structures can really help you out because they apply to so many different openings. But okay, so when the game takes, we just went ahead and castled. This is certainly not a very scary way for white to play. I blockade on d5, and they offer to trade off some minor pieces, which they probably shouldn't because that helps the player with the who's playing against the IQP. And this is really good. So now, yeah, I win the open c file, queen c2. I'm happy with all of this. Just making threats, no rush, shuffle around, expand a bit, trade. I think this all makes sense. Black has to be better here. I'm kind of curious to make sure a computer agrees. Yeah, the computer thinks black's much better here, just positionally, even not up any material. This pawn's a target, the knight's great, I have the open file. Black has to be much better here. So I would say take this right here as your training position from this video. Go ahead and set this up against a computer. Try to convert it with black. If you can't do it, if you can't break down the computer's, 3,000 rated, defenses, flip it around, give the computer the black pieces, and see how the computer does against you. But really play this out for both colors. You'll learn a lot about, converting this kind of position. Because even though black is clearly better here, the win is not, apparent. Like I said, you can't just, put all your pieces on good squares and claim that you can win the game. You can tie white up by doing that, but then you have to make something else happen, either on the king side or the queen side. I was trying to get some king side play going here, then I switched to the queen side idea. And I think in practice, this is in theory, this is a great idea to tear down white's defenses to play for b5, b4, b3, and rook c2. But of course, that has to be calculated very carefully, just like any positional plan does. You can't just go from the plan to the moves. You have to go from the plan to the calculation to the moves. Very, very important. And a lesson that a lot of players don't learn until, a lot of hard knocks. But let's see. So takes, you're doing nothing. I start expanding. So I like the idea to play for b3, but I guess my pawn is just as weak there as your b2 pawn if I'm not careful. Maybe I just maintain this pawn here and now switch back to some, kingside ideas. So instead of b3, which I'm sure is probably a mistake, right, because I can't defend that pawn, this might be a good moment for g4, because your knight doesn't have a great square. I could play g4, maybe even king f5 after that, depending on where you go, and just try to play this idea under better circumstances. It's just a matter of splitting white's defenses too thin, between the b2 isolated pawn, the d4 isolated pawn. and eventually trying to find some tactical way to make this work. It's tricky. Like I said, the wind's not going to fall from the sky just because you have a good position. But again, there's no rush. You'd certainly rather be black here than white, and you just try to slowly stretch white's defenses, outmaneuver them until you find the tactical blow. And there's no way to learn this except through practice, so I really hope you play this position for both sides against a computer and, see how it goes. But yeah, so b3, if I'm going to lose this pawn, that probably is going to make this way harder to win. Your d-pawn is still isolated. I wonder if I have any better idea than going for this. Maybe here. What about knight b5 here? That could be a possibility. But I think it's already more difficult now with the reduced material. You probably just play knight b3. Could be a move to consider, though. I tried to play probably too directly here, just swapped everything off, and now it's a dead draw. But, as far as having the black pieces go, being better the entire game and having white have to really fight for the draw, you could do a lot worse for yourself than that with the black pieces. Alright, thanks for watching, everyone. Please make sure you visit chesspathways.com, totally free, only takes 5 seconds. And when you sign up there, I will get you a free move-by-move guide to chess thinking, as well as a ton of other free content to really help you out. It took me way too long to become a chess master, and I want to help you do it in a fraction of the time. Thanks, and I will see you there.